I'm Michael. I'm a software developer, and I also like to learn languages in general. I mean, not programming languages, but actually real languages. And there's the thing, etymology, which kind of is like the research about like where words are coming from, how they evolved during history. And yeah, actually, a few years ago, I got from someone like a can of spam, this meat, and I was thinking, oh, didn't know that. So how is that related to the actual email spam? So I started a bit like looking up, and I found it obviously. And also around the same time, I was like in a museum, and there was like basically a log, you know, this wooden thing. And I was wondering, how is this related to actually a log file that we use on a daily basis in software development? And I thought, oh, this is actually interesting. Like, where are all these names coming from? So at some point, every time I saw a word, and I thought, like, what is this? I started like looking it up, and then I started to talk to some colleagues about it sometimes just for fun, and I realized that, yeah, a lot of people like use these words on a daily basis, but where is it coming from? And I'm someone who can relate to things much more when I know where it's coming from. So I made a little collection that I'd like to present today. It's more like a bit informative and fun, and you might know a lot of this. Maybe I hope that there is one or two new things for everybody. So let's start a little bit easy. Java. There's this island in Indonesia, probably everybody knows it, and the actual James Gosling, the creator of Java, he took it actually from the coffee because it was originally called Oak, but then he couldn't use that name, and then he liked the coffee basically, according to himself, and then the Java like ecosystem took over a bit this naming convention. So there's Jakarta and Lombok, which is also part of Indonesia. What might be lesser known now is Kotlin. Actually, I've passed by there once. So this language created by JetBrains, and Kotlin is actually also an island. So they kind of copied this idea of naming it after an island, and it's like basically between Estonia, Finland, and Russia. It's part of Russia. The next one is Bit. A bit of information. So everybody who studied computer science might have seen this already. So this word was introduced in 1947 by John, I think it's pronounced Taki, and it actually means binary information digit. And there's this famous paper from 48 from Claude Shannon, a mathematical theory of communication, and they have the excerpt there. So it means basically binary information digit. Now, Cafe Babe. So I said this is how every good program starts, and good program is obviously a Java program. So what does it actually mean? If you do the hex dump of any Java class file, you will see it always starts with Cafe Babe. You can try it yourself in IntelliJ, for example. I did it in the command line. Now, why is that the case? Now, yeah, Cafe, it's related to Java, and actually all the letters are hex numbers, so CAFE, BABE. And why is that? You can still look it up on all Linux, and I have a Mac, for example. There is a file that's called magic. I think it's under, what was it, user share etc or something like this. And it's actually a magic number that identifies the type of the file. So that was before this Windows convention to name a file like the ending .png, .doc or something like this. So there was this magic number used to identify what file it is. So every Java class starts with Cafe Babe. Now, some time ago, I was actually reading a book, and it explained the origin of the word code, and I was actually quite surprised where this came from. So it is actually Latin, and it is actually the trunk of a tree, which then later evolved to a law book. The reason is that you could take off the like little bit piece of wood from a tree and write on it. So that were kind of the first, like papyrus, basically like the first books. Then it evolved to a law book, so you basically have to follow the law, right, very strictly, like code, which then later evolved to the actual word code. So that's basically the origin. The next one is parse. It is actually quite simple. It's a Latin word for a part of something or a piece of something, which then evolved as a part of a speech via French, also then to English. And I did learn Latin in school as well, and we always had to do this word and sentence analysis. We had to specify, is this a verb, is this an adjective or something, and this was actually called parse, like as of the Middle Ages somewhere. This then evolved obviously to parse actually code as kind of a language. CamelCase. So the first reference that I could find, I can look this up online, is actually from 1995 by someone called Newton Love. He made on Usenet, he made this basically post where he used that word. And the similar for snake case, there was also a post on Usenet from this, I don't exactly know who this even is, but Gavin Kistner, he made, and this is in 2004, that was actually the first reference that I could find. There might be something earlier, so this is not a very scientific research, but this is basically one of the first mentionings of this expression. Actually, I have a mistake here. I always have this just another island that it wasn't on purpose, but it doesn't really matter. The word bug. So it was actually already quite old. Thomas Edison already used this for these like old mechanical machines. So there's not especially bug in there, but any kind of insect. And but in 1947, actually, Grace Hopper, that was a woman who was the creator of COBOL. She actually found an actual bug, or this in a computer, and she stick this to a logbook, and it says actually the first actual case of a bug. This is in a museum in the US. You can also find it online on the web. This is actually taken from the website of the museum. Now we have the logbook here, and I said that I also learned where this is coming from. Why is it called a logbook? In the 15th, 16th century, in sailing, to basically measure the speed of a ship, there was a rope with the knots in there, where also this speed unit is coming from, and you basically threw it on a log out of the ship, so like in this picture, and then you can actually measure the speed of that ship. And then the captain had a book where he was writing this down, so that was then called a logbook. So it was basically taking a log of what's happening, the speed and direction, everything. So this then evolved to writing down basically like a log, like a timeline. So this is why it comes from actually really this piece of wood. Then the smoke test. Why is it called a smoke test? It has different origins, but it's basically the idea is always the same, that you put smoke into something, like for example in a pipe, a plumber, or like in a ship, to see if there's a leakage somewhere before you actually. So there's a quick sanity test before you actually do maybe more thorough tests. The next one, a cursor. It's again Latin, and it actually means a runner. And where is it coming from? So it was actually a runner in terms of messenger, someone who was delivering a message, which later then moved to this slide ruler. There's the thing that it moves basically, and it was also called a cursor because it's moving. And this was then later moved to like a computer screen. And there are a lot of funny ones actually, and the word for this is actually skeuomorphism, which basically means that like this cursor doesn't have to be a hand, right? They're just representing like an actual object, like a pointer, for example, or this hourglass that you have. So it was actually basically someone who was moving, delivering message to something that's moving on this tool, and then later moving on the screen. A nerd is someone with no social skills, ? So this actually comes from originally it was like in this book here, it's books for children, the word was used, but it's kind of an alternation of the word nuts, like in terms of your nuts or nutcase or something like this. And it evolved to like a student slang, and it became nerd later on. Next one, a cloud is actually comes from a piece of clay, like a clod still in English nowadays. So until like the 14th century, it was actually like a rock or piece of earth, and then it moved later to, because the clouds in the sky looked a bit like this, like big pieces of rocks, and moved to there. And later it became then cloud computing. A funny story about this, actually, my dad, he doesn't speak any English, once came to me why there's an ad on the German, I'm German, on the German TV, which says the telecom cloud. And this exactly means, I don't know if there's anyone who speaks German, but it actually means, translated, the telecom steals. And he really didn't understand why this ad, it was really a failed advertisement. I think they changed it later. Maven. Yeah, I was also sounding Maven. What does it actually mean? It's actually Hebrew or Yiddish, and it means actually a person with like a good knowledge, understanding. So someone who is smart. That picture the AI gave me when I asked for how does a Maven look like. Then a lot of things come from actually typewriting. So the 80 character length, carriage, turn, and the tab comes from typewriting. So the tab is basically means tabular, so you can basically, these are the things that you can, for example, move there to make like a nice table, so that you have the letters underneath each other. And the punch cards also had like a limit, and a lot of them had 80. There were others 70, 60 or something, but that is basically why they didn't, how this number 80 evolved. Boilerplate. A boiler is actually this machine here on the left, so to basically heat up water, and it had this metal which is actually kind of thin and rounded. This then later evolved to these pre-printed typesetting letters, and they were called boilerplate, and then they could reproduce the same text over and over again, which then became the idea of boilerplate, which is the same code nowadays, code that you repeat. Cut, copy, and paste, the root of all evil, as some people say. It was actually invented by Larry Tesler in the 80s. And the idea was that, again, from typesetting, people were cutting out pieces of text and then pasting them onto, basically together. So this is basically cut and copy and then paste. So paste in the sense of glue and gluing something to something. I have 2 minutes. I might skip a little. I don't know if someone knows that HTTP 418 is actually a joke. It actually exists. It was actually an April Fool joke. I'm a teapot. You can check it. It exists in Java everywhere. And it's actually mentioned in a joke. So this is a thing from the Spring framework, this screenshot here. I gonna spam. Now I come to the spam for a minute. So spam is actually this meat. And in 1970, there was... I don't show it here because there's not enough time. You can, if you're interested, look it up later. But there was a sketch by Monty Python where they repeated this word spam like million times, and this was then later taken of something that happens like it's just too much, basically. So they made this sketch of that meat, and then it became spam because just being too much, let's say. Now the last one. Hope I wasn't too fast yet. Git, we all do stupid things. I'm actually not a native English speaker, and I actually did not know this until a few years ago, until someone actually told me. He was not into software engineering at all. He was just a bit confused. Why is the thing called Git? That was a native English speaker. And for everybody who doesn't know, that means actually a stupid person in English, or like someone who's stupid. And at some point, Linus Torvalds, who created Git, was asked, so why did he create it like this? And then he actually gave this answer, that he is that he names all the project after himself. So first Linux and then Git. So that was basically the idea. If this is probably a little bit of a joke, but as he said this, I can take it as the official reference. And you actually, if you go to the Git page, still nowadays it says Git description, the stupid content tracker. if you go to the main page in Unix, for example. Yeah, that was the last one. It was quite quick ride through those names. I hope you enjoyed it a bit. Learned maybe one or two.